Advisors this Monday evening, January the 4th. I call the meeting to order and ask that you join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll now call the roll. Supervisor Blundy?
Here.
Supervisor Grenier?
Here.
Supervisor Lewis?
Here.
Supervisor McCartney?
Present.
And I am here. We have a quorum. I'll now open the meeting to public comment. Monica, is there any public comment?
Yes, there is. Mary is the first caller.
Okay. Hi, Mary. Can you unmute yourself? There you go. Give your full name, address, and make your comment.
Okay, my name is Mary Kirsch. I live on Yale Drive in Lower Makefield Township. I've lived here for about 30 years. I'm concerned about the plane traffic from the Trenton Mercer Airport and want to thank the Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors for all their support with their airport review board. And I hope that the board continues during the next year or two to work on our behalf about this issue.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. Any other public comment, Monica?
Yes, the next caller is Don.
Hi, Don. Give your full name, address, and make your comment.
Hi, Don Wilcox, 81 North Delaware Avenue, Yardley, PA. I wanted to call in support of the airport review panel and express how important it is in the efforts to ensure that the airport is a responsible partner. Obviously, COVID has suppressed flights, and I think that the public has been somewhat lulled by that. I think it's critical that we therefore keep this awareness in front of people. The freeholders certainly have not been lulled by it. They're extremely, the Mercer freeholders, they're extremely determined as ever to push through expansion, and they're betting millions on this. So I think it's absolutely critical for us to maintain the awareness for people. There will be a significant ramp up in air traffic after this COVID threat is over. The airport review panel is critical for public awareness. It's also a significant freeholder deterrent. They proceed much more cautiously when they feel that they're being watched by organizations that have some particular impact, and I would count the airport review panel as one of those. It's important also to help support the other civic groups. There's a certain camaraderie between the groups. I happen to be a member of BRAM. There's a couple groups actively working in New Jersey as well. And I think that, it's really important that we can all be in this together and feel like we're supporting each other. I think it's also been really important, the airport review panel, with regard to our communication with federal and state governmental officials. I think they've done a great job on that. And really, they carry the weight that makes this, our government officials stand and listen. It's also, I think, not a very big budget item. So I think that really, I don't see a downside, but I do see a group of people on this panel that are extremely motivated to work on it and commit to it. And I think, we need to maintain that energy and take advantage of it. Almost done. I would say that I think that Dan Grenier would make a great liaison to the committee as well. So I would recommend that. I think it's just really important that we don't send the wrong message to people by dropping this now, because it's more critical than it ever has been. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Don. Any other public comment, Monica?
Yes, Holly is on the line.
Okay. Hi, Holly. Unmute yourself, give your full name, address, make your comment.
Holly Bussey, 20 Knoll Drive, Lower Makefield.
Hi.
As president of the Bucks Residents for Responsible Airport Management, or BRAM, I've worked with many boards of supervisors over the past 23 plus years. BRAM represents over 450 Lower Makefield Township residents with regards to the expansion of the Trenton Mercer Airport. Over the years, the LMT Board of Supervisors has provided a variety of support, which we are most appreciative. Most recently, the creation of the Trenton Mercer Airport Review Panel, which I'll now refer to as the Airport Panel. For the past several years, this group of volunteers has shouldered the load of monitoring and tracking the developments and keeping the BOS informed, enabling the board to do other work, but still keep current. It is a successful model. The group has been a catalyst in keeping things on both sides of the river moving forward. Most recently, the Airport Panel has acted with other groups, as mentioned before, in both state and federal governments to become more involved in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey activities. Lower Makefield Township's influence is most valuable, with little need for deep involvement, and it is certainly appreciated. There are new issues coming up with the airport, and the LMT Airport Panel has done an outstanding job, a stellar job, in keeping both the supervisors and the other community organizations working together and informed. As we go forward in structuring the LMT BOS responsibilities for 2021, BRAM would hope that the Airport Panel continues. And as it was mentioned before, Dan Grenier has worked with us a lot. His expertise is invaluable with his environmental issue background, and his comments have been quite profound. This knowledge has enabled other groups to gain effectiveness. The airport is entering a more aggressive stage now, and it's vital that LMT remain involved utilizing this Airport Panel. LMT holds a valuable position that we all appreciate, and moving forward, that would influence and it will be needed for others to do their work. BRAM and other citizens of LMT with vision will appreciate this continued support of the Airport Panel, and hopefully Dan Grenier as liaison. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Fred, is it my headset that I'm wearing tonight?
Must be. You look like an ATC controller.
That's what I was going to ask.
Is there any other public comment, Monica?
Yes, Fred, there is Richard on the line.
Okay. Hi, Richard. Give your full name, address, and make your comment.
This is Richard Preston, 1522 Stapler Drive. I'm the co-chair of the Airport Review Panel. And so since there have been a number of comments already made regarding the airport, I don't need to repeat everything they've said. What I will mention is we have been successful in getting information to Senator Toomey's office, who's expressed an interest in combining with Congressman Fitzpatrick in sending a letter to the New Jersey DEP expressing our concerns about the pollution effects from the airport, since the planes fly over us and it's not just a New Jersey issue. We'd like to see the Board of Supervisors also send a letter to New Jersey and DEP, and we're working even this week on a meeting with the New Jersey DEP in conjunction with the Trenton Threatened Skies organization that has set up this meeting, and we're trying to get down to very specific and actionable points to put in as the asks for the letter from the federal reps. And in doing that, it would be most helpful to have the assistance of Dan Grenier, who has the necessary expertise. I think unique. I don't think anybody else in the township, the engineers or lawyers, have that kind of expertise. And so we need that to get the really specific points to the DEP. They're talking to us and they're concerned. They're trying to figure out how to deal with the segmentation issue, that when there's this many projects going on and they're only seeing them, sort of one at a time as little snippets as they're presented to them. So there's discussions going on with the DEP right now about the fact that so many projects are going on that are connected, and the cumulative effects could have a tremendous impact on our community. So getting his help on this and having a liaison who actually is engaged with us would be very helpful. And so I just put my 2 cents in for that, and also for the fact that we think the Board of Supervisors should be in a position in the coming month or so to submit a letter to the New Jersey DEP and express, just add their voice to the concerns that our federal representatives are going to make. That's what I've got.
Thanks, Richard. I got to ask you a question while you're still on. Did anything special precipitate this outpouring of support for the committee and for?
Your agenda showed you were considering who is going to be liaison, and you're considering what committees to go forward with. And in a previous meeting, one of our airport review panel meetings, Mr. Weiss suggested that he thought the committee doesn't really need to go forward. And I mean, that was probably 9 months ago or a year ago. We disagreed. We thought we should continue. We thought the community needed the communication. So since you're in a reorganization process, it's certainly on our minds that we'd like the panel to continue. And you're in the reorg, you're considering who's going to be the liaison. So that would be what precipitated it.
Okay, so
several calls as well in the office today from people calling.
Yeah, I got a call from Senator Sanarciro saying that the board was considering dissolving the committee, which is not true. The Board of Supervisors it's not even on the radar. What we may have said person to person about a year ago over whatever, obviously never, made that move. But as far as putting liaison, a person as liaison to the committee, I'm sure the chair will take note of that and make the appropriate appointments. So thank you, Richard, for your comments.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Any other public comment, Monica?
Yes, Sue is on the line.
Sue? Okay. Hi, Sue. Give your full name, address, and make your comment.
Hi, and Happy New Year.
You too.
Susan Herman. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yep, you're fine.
Susan Herman, President Residence for Regional Traffic Solutions, Inc., P.O. Box 285, Newtown, PA. Mercer County freeholders, now known as the Mercer County Commissioners, have made aggressive strides forward in approving segmented expansion projects at the Trenton Mercer Airport. This continued large-scale, unchecked expansion of the airport is going to affect both Mercer County and Bucks County municipalities greatly. The environmental impacts of the segmented projects over the past 20 plus years have been ignored as they've skirted around having to do the appropriate level of environmental scrutiny by segmenting the projects. In November 2020, they approved the Taxiway D to Taxiway G connector, a critical component that will allow for a large increase in flight volumes. The true cumulative environmental impacts need to be measured. Our drinking water, which we get from the Delaware River, is at risk of being poisoned by known PFAS and other toxic contaminants present at the former Naval Air Warfare Center in Trenton. We implore the LMT Board of Supervisors to escalate their role and take a proactive leadership role in pressuring Congressman Fitzpatrick and the New Jersey DEP and our federal senators to put pressure on the FAA to do a cumulative environmental impact statement that truly measures the cumulative environmental impacts on all affected Bucks and Mercer County municipalities. The segmented projects that have to be taken into consideration that have been done under the radar are more than 20 years of projects that have been done in a segmented fashion, and the 25 individually considered segmented projects in the current master plan. These include the runway protection zone and obstruction mitigation project and a passenger terminal that is 5 times the size of the current terminal. If you cannot succeed in getting the FAA to do this, then we ask that you proactively push for Bucks County and Mercer County to work together to do a voluntary cumulative environmental impact statement. We count on the LMT Board of Supervisors to protect our health, safety, and welfare. We are grateful for the work and coordination that the LMT Airport Review Panel has done to date and look forward to our continued working relationship in 2021 and beyond. We respectfully ask that Dan Grenier be appointed as the liaison of the Airport Review Panel, as he has the necessary qualifications to do this work, and he has shown keen interest in this issue. Unfortunately, both Supervisors McCartney and Supervisor Blundy failed to attend the Airport Review Panel meetings most of the time. And so we felt very unsupported by those supervisors as liaisons. So we implore you, Dr. Weiss, to please hear our plea for Dan Grenier, who has been invaluable on this issue, to be the liaison. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Sue, for your comment. Monica, is there any other public comment?
No further public comment.
Great. In that case, I will now transition to the next phase of this meeting and ask that our solicitor, Mr. Truelove, take over the gavel and proceed accordingly.
Virtual gavel, limited tenure here, so nobody get too worried about it. It's my pleasure, as I do every year, as I'm solicitor, to at least have a part of the reorganization meeting. Pleasure working with this board and certainly the administration in some very trying times, but in a manner that some very capable people who are stepping up, both elected officials, certainly of the 5 here, and the administration. So it's a pleasure to work with all of you. It's my role now to accept nominations for the chair of the Board of Supervisors for 2021. Do I hear a nomination for chair?
Mr. Truelove, I'd like to make a nomination for Suzanne Blundy.
Mr. McCartney's nominating Ms. Blundy. Is there a second?
I will second that.
It's been a motion and a second to nominate Ms. Blundy as the chair. All those in favor?
Is there a discussion component?
You can, absolutely, if you can do that, sure. Yep.
I was going to ask the respective nominee if it was her intention to restore public comment at the beginning of all meetings during 2021, as was the custom of the township.
John, as I had told you when we spoke, you're the only person so far who had asked about that, but I think that is something that we as a board should talk about.
But I was the only one?
Yeah, you're the only one who asked me in the last 10 days, week, whatever. But yeah, I think it is something that we as a board need to discuss and make a decision on. There are pros and cons to both sides, but clearly there is some concern by residents, and I think we have to find a way to address them. So
we weren't given an option to discuss that last year when that was changed.
John, I can only talk to you about today and tomorrow. So
Is there any other discussion at this point? Hearing none, all those in favor of Ms. Bundy as chair for the Board of Supervisors for calendar year 2021 indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Say aye.
I'm opposed.
3-2 in favor of Ms. Bundy. Ms. Bundy, you are now the chair, and
I think Mr. Grenier voted in favor.
No, I would like to discuss that in greater detail, that question, but I voted in favor as long as we're open to
you did vote in favor? Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that's
No,
okay.
the record and the minutes should reflect the fact the vote was 4-1. Want to make sure that everything's clear here. And that Ms. Bundy, you now can assume the gavel, and I will step aside virtually, and the meeting is now yours.
Thank you. And thank you, fellow supervisors. It is my honor to be the chair of the Board of Supervisors for 2021. And I look forward to working with all of you on some of the many issues that are before us, what I like to just call the agenda of the township. Ensuring that our township remains a great place to live, that we have adequate fire protection and safety measures in place, to address the pending sale of the sewer and what to do with the proceeds of that money to protect the residents of Lower Makefield, to find a way to work within our budget so that we can pave additional roads, to work on improving the Airbnb ordinance that we put into effect some years ago and tightening it up as we've learned some lessons from its application. And perhaps, most dear to my heart, I hope you'll join with me in the creation of an ad hoc committee to address the many township buildings that we have and their various states of repair or disrepair, and to come forward with a project to address those important assets. So that's all, and thank you. So with that, hopefully we'll move on to a more unanimous votes as we move to elect the other officers for the board for 2021. Do I hear a motion for the selection of a vice chair of the Board of Supervisors?
I nominate James McCartney.
I'll second.
Any comment? With that, can we call the vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Welcome, James.
Thank you. And thank you for the nominations and the opportunity.
Thank you.
I was worried, James, if you voted no on your own nomination, what that would mean.
I don't know what that looks like.
Just wanted to keep it 4-1. Then I would like to move forward with the consideration of selecting a secretary for the Board of Supervisors for 2021. Do I hear any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Fred Weiss.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lewis. Any comments? Discussion?
I'm sorry, 1 second, Suzanne. Did I mishear you? Did you say treasurer or secretary?
She said secretary.
I'm sorry. I think I said treasurer, but if I didn't, I meant treasurer.
Okay. Can we correct the record? Because after you said it, I thought it and it didn't sound right. So
listen, I'm the first to admit I'm a little bundle of nerves. So yeah, sure. Let me try again, and let me do it, even withdraw what has happened, if that's okay with everybody.
Maker of the motion would have to withdraw the motion.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, and then I'm gonna do what I should have done and follow along with the agenda. So we're up to item B, which is consider selecting a secretary for the Board of Supervisors for 2021.
I'd like to nominate John Lewis for secretary.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any comment? Any discussions? Okay, with that, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Moving on to treasurer. I'd like to entertain a motion for considering selecting a treasurer
I nominate
for supervisors for 2021.
I nominate Dan Grenier for treasurer.
I'll second that.
Any comment? Discussions? Okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails. Is there any other motion for treasurer for the Board of Supervisors for 2021?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Fred Weiss for treasurer.
Thank you. I'll second it. Any discussion? Okay, with that, call the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
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 The motion carries 3-2. Okay, and lastly, consider selecting an assistant secretary / treasurer for 2021. This usually a great honor is given to our township manager. So with that, is there a motion?
I move to nominate Township Manager Kurt Ferguson to serve as Assistant Secretary, Assistant Treasurer.
I'll second Mr. Lewis's motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, and all in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Okay, moving along. I would entertain a motion to appoint the chair of the vacancy board.
I move to nominate Karen Vandelon as chair of the vacancy board.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. With that, I call the question. All those in favor signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion fails.
I nominate Zach Rubin as vacancy chair.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, discussion on Mr. Zach Rubin.
Yeah, sure. If
You want to?
This is an interesting role. Mr. Rubin is one of those folks that has shown over the years a great interest in the township, to say the least, and has been very active and more so than many, I think, has attended and taken part in and follows closely the goings on of the township. And I think that's an important, not to speak ill of anyone else, but I think that's knowing what's going on in the township and how things operate and being aware of all things LMT is an important role, or an important characteristic, I should say, of this role. So I would be okay with Mr. Rubin in that role.
Any further comment? None. To call the question. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion fails.
I move to nominate Renee Donahue as vacancy chair.
Is there a second? And the motion fails.
I'll move to appoint Adrian Costello to the vacancy chair.
I'll second that motion.
Is there discussion on the motion?
Yeah.
Is he currently on the planning commission?
John, could I just please get a word in? Thank you. Is there any discussion on the nomination? Supervisor Lewis, did you want to say something?
Yes. Isn't he currently a member of the planning commission?
He is.
Okay. Well, it seems like, it's two positions.
Yeah. May I?
Yes, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, it is two positions, but I would say as someone who was an advocate for Mr. Costello in that planning commission role, I think he does an excellent job there. I think he's an unbiased person who is very, and the reason I was very supportive of him for the planning commission role is one that I would support him in this role as well, and have in the years past, because he does step back and take all items into account, and is I think he would, if called into play, let's say, into service, if there was a vacancy, I think he would do a fine job.
I agree. Mr. Costello is an excellent choice, has shown his ability to be unbiased, fair in making decisions and everything that he's been asked to do. And I see no reason why we should not reappoint him as the chair for the vacancy board.
I guess I would have no objection. So if that's the case, I'd call the question.
Okay, any further comment? Okay, then with that, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, Mr. Costello. Service is most appreciated. Okay, moving on to professional services. I would consider motion for appointment of the following professional services, starting first with traffic engineer, safe highway engineers. Dr.
I'd like to nominate Safe Engineering to be our traffic engineer for the ensuing year.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. McCartney. Any discussion?
If you don't mind.
Sure.
I think Mr. Fiacco has done a fine job this year, answered some great questions, and I think importantly at a reasonable price, if memory serves. So I think I'd like to continue with his services.
Great. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, then with that, I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. How about a motion for the auditor?
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Malley LLP as our auditor for the ensuing year.
A second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion?
This is more of a question than a discussion. Kurt, how long have they been, 1 or 2 years now? 2? And we typically like to essentially do a 3-year review with auditors, if I remember correctly.
Their current agreement, this is the last year of their current agreement. So we could have a discussion on whether you wanted to continue with them via an extension or RFP it back out after they're done with this coming up audit.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Anything else? Did you want to comment?
I would say we perhaps want to do an RFP just to recycle through at the end of the year once we complete the agreement, but that's fine.
Yeah, right now we're just talking about right now. So any other conversation? Okay, with that, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to consideration of a motion for the appointment of township solicitor.
I make a motion to appoint Hill Wallach as our solicitor for the ensuing year.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you, Mr. McCartney. Any discussion? Yes.
Yes, please. In preparation for the meeting, I like to go through the old proposals for engineer and solicitor, see rates and what terms and conditions were, et cetera. And this last round of proposals, I think our July 3rd of 2019 meeting, we made it a requirement that any proposal we receive for engineer solicitor to make it clear where they provided any funding or contributions to any current or potential LMT office holder, individual or PAC. And I went through and I saw Remington Vernick had disclosed. I looked at Remington Vernick's first, and they had their disclosures, and they disclosed $1,000 donation to Keep LMT Blue PAC, which last year I didn't know what that was. But I also noticed that Hill Wallach also put in a $2,000 donation in June of 2019 to the Keep LMT Blue PAC, which we know is, at the time anyway, Supervisor Weiss's PAC. In their proposal, however, they did not disclose that contribution. They did disclose other contributions to other township supervisors and related PACs in the county and locally. However, based on our precedent in the township, we had previously told engineering firms that they could not move forward with the proposal RFP process because they were non-compliant with our RFP requirements. We also did that more in a bigger, precedent-setting item, which I agreed with, was we told the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority that they're what we call their non-bid bid because they were non-compliant with our RFP requirements could not be considered. So with that, I would say that simply based on that and some other comments that I've received about performance from staff and other supervisors, I don't believe that we can continue with Hill Wallach as our solicitor, and that we need to temporarily appoint our conflict counsel, Curtin Hefner, as our solicitor and re-RFP this to remain in compliance with our previously stated RFP requirements. And I would ask, just for the sake of the township and the board, that because this non-compliance issue is specific to the Keep L&T Blue Pack, that Dr. Weiss, that you think about recusing yourself from this vote, specifically just to be above board about everything. But I believe that we have set a clear precedence related to compliance, and Hill Wallach is clearly out of compliance with that RFP requirement, and we should move forward in a different direction.
Dr. Weiss.
2 points. First is that in June of 2019, I was not a member of Keep L&T Blue Pack. As far as I can recall, I relinquished the chair to Ms. Judith Gordon.
That was in July of 2019.
So my position as chair was a peripheral one, did not accept or reject any donations or contributions. And the second point, so I will not recuse myself. And the second point is that I think the RFP that was presented to Hill Wallach when they took on the position did not have that clause. And Mr. Trulove, you can be more specific, either way, but I can't hold somebody to a disclosure when no disclosure was asked of them. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm fine with moving forward and not recusing myself from the vote.
Well, I can say, since I haven't looked at that documentation, nor was this brought to my attention at all, I have no independent recollection of that. So I can't say that. In all respects, we certainly, I believe, complied with the requirements. So, we're talking now a year and a half ago, and nothing was mentioned in the ensuing 18 months. So this is news to me.
But I would, since we brought it up, that that Mr. Grenier and Mr. Lewis may have a personal stake in Hill Wallach's continuation as solicitor for the township because of recent legal actions against the township, which were dropped. And I won't get into details. I'm not really interested in those details, other than the fact that I'm totally satisfied with Mr. Trulove and Hill Wallach's work for the township in these last 3 years.
Mr. Ferguson, given that Mr. Grenier has brought up something that definitely warrants us a moment to look at, and we're not able to do this because I certainly, when I spoke to you today, Dan, I know we didn't have a chance to complete that conversation, but I didn't know this was something he wanted to talk about. Would it be appropriate to postpone this vote until we have a chance to discuss, review the documents and discuss this matter further?
Are you asking me that question?
I am, because I don't know that I can ask the solicitor.
No, well, listen, respectfully, we have a variety of things underway right now that isn't just involving Mr. Trulove, that's involving Barbara Kirk, that's involving other members of the staff that are ongoing. So, if you want my opinion, and it's clearly not a legal one, I would suggest at a minimum that Wallach be appointed at a minimum on an interim basis while that's the legal work of the township that's underway, from the zoning hearing board meeting tomorrow night to other things that are ongoing, can proceed, with appropriate legal representation. The conflict counsel that Supervisor Grenier mentions is certainly capable, but they would be that would be a tall task to try to do something in such short order that way.
I would be happy to amend my motion to retain Hill Wallach as township solicitor until that time that we can make a more specific recommendation.
I would still second that motion.
Okay. So with that, if there's, yes, Supervisor Lewis?
I think it's most appropriate that I recuse myself from this vote, as there's an ongoing issue that I felt has not been resolved with the solicitor's office. And I sought what I thought was a reasonable approach and was not kind of batted down. So I don't want to cause any issues. I think it's probably best, and I'm certainly more, if folks have questions or want to question, I can certainly discuss it. But given the nature and circumstance of that, I would choose to abstain from that vote at this time.
Thank you, Supervisor Lewis. There's no further discussion. We'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. And one abstention, so the motion carries 3-1-1. Okay, moving along to the appointment of all other professional services. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, I make the motion to reappoint all professional service providers for the ensuing year as stands for 2020.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can we clarify which providers for each position? Because there's 13 of them, my understanding. Professional. We've talked about 3.
Mr. Ferguson, can you give the list?
I don't have a laundry list to read off of you. It would be all essentially professional services. It would include, obviously, first and foremost, municipal engineer. It would include municipal engineer. It would include actuary. It would include the consultant for healthcare.
Sewer engineer?
Say again.
Sewer
engineer would be in there, yes. So all of those professional services. I apologize, I don't have those at my fingertips, but it would be essentially all consultant services for the township that include, trying to think of things beyond financial, but those are the biggest ones that I could tell you as far as expenditures that we would have. Municipal engineer, sewage engineer, actuary, and the healthcare consultant that we have.
Code official.
Yeah, there's a big one, Fred. Yes, the building code official would be the other big one that would be in there, the 5 of the bigger ones you mentioned. I also do want to point out something before the question is asked, because I'm going to anticipate the question, Dan. Any of these 13 appointments, as we know, and I'll say it out loud, it's known, we're advertising for a building code official now, are not a permanent binding appointment. So in the end, if something was going to happen with one of those 13 appointments that the board wanted to go in a different direction, you have no binding obligation to go forward for the whole year if a change would be made.
Thank you. Dan, did you want to say something?
Well, sort of related, Kurt, a little differently, I guess. I forget when it was now. Maybe it was November of 17, whatever it was, a while back. We had talked about our long-term RFP schedule. I know you're advertising building code official now. And we did a bunch, a handful or so over the last year and a half or so. How are we looking for the remaining, I'll say 13 just because I don't know the number, but the remaining folks?
Well, I'll be honest with you. One of the discussions I think the board's had over the last year and a half where some of those that, as I've pointed out, switching becomes extremely problematic because they're bound to collective bargaining, like the healthcare professional as an example. That healthcare option and what we're doing there is bound to collective bargaining agreements that we have. So going in a different direction becomes problematic with the bargaining units that we have. The building code official one that we have and the banking relationship that we have are the next two. I don't have a time schedule. For example, the actuary and even the financial consultant require a lot of legalese, even for an RFP regarding those details. I do essentially have the framework for the financial consultant completed, but that will require a legal review. That would probably be the next big one if the board was interested in doing that. We do have one of the larger firms in the tri-state area doing that. So I don't have a current time frame, and I also have to look and see more currently beyond healthcare if there's any that prove problematic for the reasons that I stated.
Okay. Thanks, Kurt.
Okay, with that, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Right. Moving on to other business. I hear a motion to consider appointing a delegate or an alternative delegate. James, I believe that you were appointed last year and COVID kept you from attending. So do I hear a motion for an appointment for this year?
I make a motion to appoint James McCartney as the delegate for the PSATS conference for 2021.
I'll second that.
Oh, that was very, very quick, fellas. Just saying.
I love it.
I would speak out in support of Supervisor McCartney as our PSATS
Thank you, John.
delegate.
Do we want to include an alternate in that motion, gentlemen?
Only if we have to.
Well, James, we're counting on you.
I will represent as best as I can.
There's no further discussion from the board. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 No one opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Oh. Okay, now we're moving on to the announcement of supervisor liaison assignments for 2021. Just bear with me, please. Okay. Dr. Weiss, if you would please take on the Disability Advisory Board appointment, Electronic Media Advisory Council, the seniors, to the extent that they still require a liaison, the Sewer Authority, and Zoning Hearing Board. James, Mr. McCartney, Farmland Preservation, the Golf Committee, Parks and Recreations Board, and Special Events. Big year with the 9/11 Memorial coming up.
Absolutely.
Dan, if you would please, the Electrical Reliability Committee, the Historical Architect Review Board, the Historic Commission, and the Planning Commission. And John, if you would please, the Citizens Traffic Commission, the Trenton Mercer Airport Review Board, Economic Development, and the Veterans Committee. Myself, I will be taking the Board of Appeals, the Environmental Advisory Council, Emergency Management, the Financial Advisory Council, and to the extent that we have a need for it this year, the Agricultural Security Board. Thank you, gentlemen. Dan, as you have in years past, if Supervisor Lewis is in need of your assistance, I'm sure that you will help him with any issues that come up before the Trenton Mercer Airport Committee.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
I'm obviously there for you on the Electric Reliability Committee. Dan, we talked on that many times. So
that goes for anyone, obviously. If it can be, we can be of help in any way, or I'm happy to do so. And I will accept and ask for your help on any of these things, because I know you've all had some background here.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So moving on then. Do I have a motion to consider establishing the amount of the treasurer's bond at $2 million?
So moved.
We'll second.
Keep it simple.
Any conversation, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Consider establishing the amount of the assistant treasurer's bond, also in the amount of $2 million.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Truelove, zoning hearing.
Yes, briefly. And the reason why these are on tonight is because the zoning hearing board, it meets tomorrow night, and I believe these matters will be on the agenda for tomorrow night. The first matter, Gene Augustin is requesting a variance for property located at 3 Ridge Avenue in order to increase non-conforming rear yard setback and install a patio roof. Under the circumstances, as it is already a non-conformity, and he's requesting to increase it, we would recommend participating just to kind of confirm or at least understand the nature and the extent of what that looks like, and see if there's any issues that are presented by it. So we'd recommend participation, and a vote would be required or certainly recommended.
I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Kurt, do we need to check for public comment on this? Or can we just mosey along?
I don't think we need to do public comment, and we put these on here just to the board to participate. I suppose we could ask Monica if there's anybody on the line for that.
Yeah, and just as not that there's anything wrong with public comment here, but obviously the public wants to participate at the zoning hearing board. They have a right to do this, especially those who may be in the area affected. They could actually establish party status if there's an issue with that.
Okay, thank you for that. Then call the vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, 5-0.
Thank you. The next item, Edward and Deborah Kenkel are requesting a variance for property located at 2114 North Crescent Boulevard in order to permit construction of an addition resulting in greater than permitted impervious surface. This is not in the flood zone based upon input from several people. And as a consequence, we would recommend deferral to the zoning hearing board unless there's some contrary sentiment from any board members. Hearing none, I'll move on to the third item. Vincent and Beverly Callistra are requesting variances for property located at 1500 Page Drive in order to permit construction of an in-ground pool with covered deck and shed resulting in encroachment into the rear yard setback and greater than a permitted impervious surface. This is a fairly common circumstance, again, not unusual. And normally the zoning hearing board knows how to address these issues. Again, there's not any zoning or flood zone implications. So unless there's a contrary sentiment, we also recommend deferring to the zoning hearing board in this matter as well. Hearing none, the final matter, Dan Shaw is requesting a variance for property located at 23 Delaware Rim Drive in order to permit construction of an in-ground pool resulting in greater than permitted impervious surface. Once again, this is a matter that seems to be very common these days. We call it the COVID era pools. But unless there's something, and this is not in the flood zone, unless there's some contrary sentiment from the board members, we do recommend deferral to the zoning hearing board, as it again is something fairly common, especially these days, for the zoning hearing board to address and consider. And unless there's a vote to the contrary, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Well, there being no further business before the board, meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone. Here's my gavel.
Happy New Year.
Congratulations.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.